This is 5 on your side at 6. Focused on you.
2 fights on school grounds, more than 24 students arrested. Now Riverview Gardens High School is canceling homecoming activities over safety concerns. Good evening. Thank you for being with us. I'm Ann Allred. Mike Bush has the night off. Just minutes ago, we also learned Riverview Gardens High School students will continue virtual learning through Friday. And the plan is to return to in-person learning on Monday. School leaders say all of these changes are out of an abundance of caution. Our Justina Coronel joins us live from the high school. Justina.
Yeah, so students were virtual today, remote learning. Now, this is after 2 fights broke out yesterday, one inside the school and one outside.
It's a billboard with a big purpose, and the person behind it wants to wheel over this message to Riverview Gardens High School after 2 fights caused ripple effects in the school.
That work that I did for myself, I want to be able to offer that to the children today at Riverview.
Dr. Marty Casey with the Ungun Institute addresses trauma with arts. She wants to help others after hearing about 15 arrests were made during Tuesday's fights. 2 students had minor injuries, and the school sent a letter to parents saying this weekend's homecoming parade, pep rally, and dance are canceled due to safety concerns.
So coming off of a pandemic, dealing with all of the different social issues that we've been facing over the last 10 years, specifically here in St. Louis, even after Ferguson. So when you take all of those things into account, you have to understand that our mental wellness may not be so well.
Casey has her own personal tie with Riverview.
I attended there 7th grade, 8th grade, and part of my 9th grade year. And I got into it with a teacher, a physical altercation with a teacher, and it caused me to be expelled.
And it pushed her to change. She empowered herself to empower others.
We can assist, I should say, to be able to help them find out exactly where those issues are.
Lorenzo Davis is also a 2009 Riverview graduate. Through the organization, he encourages others.
Mostly the young men because, we got the same troubles, and I know that they hurting inside because I was one of those kids that was hurting inside.
The group believes there's safety in numbers. It takes the whole community to make a big impact.
It sounds like we need to work with parents. We also need to do some professional development with the staff, and it also definitely sounds like we need to work with the students.
Now, the football game is still happening this Sunday, but only the athletes and their families can go. No other students are allowed to attend. Reporting live, Justina Coronel, 5 on your side.
Tonight, the town prosecutor in St. Louis is explaining why his administration struck a deal with a man originally charged with a felony following his wife's fatal fall in a downtown parking garage. Our Christine Byers spoke with St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore about 2 hours ago and is here with the latest on this case. Christine.
And ever since we posted the story about the 2 years of probation Bradley Jenkins got in this case, the social media reaction has been unanimous. It wasn't enough. St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore tells me the evidence in this case did not support anything higher than a misdemeanor, and the family's civil lawsuit reveals they might not think this was a homicide either. On June 2nd, around 1:45 a.m., police were called to the Stadium East parking garage. There, they found Bradley Jenkins straddling his 27-year-old wife's body. He was covered in blood and appeared to be intoxicated. Police said Martin's cell phone captured the couple arguing, her voice telling him to stop hitting her, and later screaming as she fell to her death. Does the evidence show that he shoved her to her death?
The video does not reflect that.
Jenkins has never been charged with his wife's murder. A civil lawsuit filed by Martin's mother alleges her daughter fell to her death while running away from Jenkins. St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore's predecessor, Kim Gardner, charged him with felony domestic assault. It was supposed to go to trial next week, but Gore's administration reduced the charges to a misdemeanor. How is this only a misdemeanor?
I'm not going to try to walk through 3 years of analysis and investigation, but it obviously was a very tragic case, and we didn't pursue the charges that we pursued lightly. It's the best charge that we could obtain based on the evidence.
The evidence included accident reconstruction as well as examination of the video and audio from Martin's cell phone.
Those were the 2 things that were really analyzed in detail, broken down piece by piece, looked at from every angle.
Gore says he's aware of the public's outcry in this case.
I would suggest to the public that no stone was left unturned. they can feel secure in that fact, and that in fact the plea agreement that was reached reflects the highest charge that the evidence would support.
As part of the deal, Jenkins will have to attend a domestic violence intervention program, refrain from using drugs and alcohol, and have no contact with Martin's family. That civil case is scheduled to go to trial in October.
A St. Charles County man sentenced to death for killing 4 people was sentenced to an additional 210 years in prison today. Richard Emery killed his girlfriend Kate Caston, her 2 children Zoe and Jonathan, and her mother Jane Mokel in 2018. Following the shootings, Emery stabbed a woman during a carjacking and exchanged gunfire with St. Charles police. Today's sentencing was in connection to those crimes. Kate Caston's father, Rick Mokel, was in the courtroom, and he released a statement. Today isn't about us. It's about the individuals who were affected by him. Justice was served. He got an additional 210 years added to his sentence. This was more about that he would never, ever get out on a technicality. Illinois becomes the first state in the nation to abolish cash bail in just 5 days. That's when the Safety Act takes effect. Tonight, our political editor Mark Maxwell talked to a St. Clair County judge about the massive overhaul coming to Illinois courts.
And for years, politicians have shaped and warped, in some cases, the rhetoric around the end of cash bail, warning of a so-called purge or a massive jailbreak where violent offenders would roam free and wreak havoc. But we haven't heard much from the judges who make those decisions until now.
This is a monumental transformation of the criminal justice system.
He would know. He's not wearing his robes here, but that's St. Clair County's Chief Judge, Andrew Gleason.
I'm on the front lines. I'm in the trenches. I have a pretty good idea of how all this is going to work.
He's weighed the good and the bad in the scales of justice in this building for decades and came away with a lingering question, that same question that sits at the core of Illinois' move to abolish cash bail.
Why do we have a 2-tier justice system when it comes to bond and not bond?
He doesn't usually grant interviews to the press, but in this case,
I have a narrative that ought to be heard along with the people that are hand-wringing and believing that the sky is falling.
We met him moments before prosecutors, parole officers, police, public defenders, and court reporters filed into his chambers to continue their work, hammering out a new system to process people who get arrested.
It's been a daunting task, but I'm kind of excited to see what actually takes place, and I think that it's going to be a lot more positive than people might suspect at this particular point in time.
Without bond, judges will use a risk assessment tool and fill out these carbon copy forms to decide which defendants facing violent felony charges will go to jail to wait for their day in court. In the 2.5 years since Illinois adopted the new law, he says he's heard a lot of misleading rhetoric from politicians who want your vote.
The sky is falling. We're letting everybody out. You know, we're going to swing the doors open, and every dangerous criminal in the world is going to be on the streets of our community.
They called it the purge.
The purge. It's just not true, and it's unfortunate that someone would say that. It's not correct. We're going to ensure that doesn't happen, and we still have the discretion and are going to utilize that discretion to make sure that doesn't happen.
Now that decision falls squarely on the judge's shoulders.
For the most part, if somebody's dangerous, we're detaining them, and I don't think I'm sure that's not going to change. If we find someone to be dangerous to themselves or to the community at large, they'll be detained.
The judge confirmed what the public defender told us yesterday, that roughly 10% of the current jail population could get to go home on Monday after a judge hears arguments about their potential risks to the community.